earlier when we left, I said, everybody comes home. I stood on the PT stand. Everybody comes home, either in the aircraft or underneath the aircraft. Nobody's left behind. And we couldn't find one, and it was really difficult and tough. And I remember just going back to my room that night and just that dark voice saying, I thought you were bringing everybody home. I thought you said that nobody was going to be left behind. And it just kept playing. And I really lamented over that. And I didn't question, but I questioned. I thought I was past all of this, with this great healing. And it was truly the very first horrible test that I was going to have to this renewal of my faith. And I remember several days later of just getting on my hands and knees inside my CHU, the containerized unit, and just weeping. Just, Lord, take this from me. I'm giving it all to you. I can't carry this. I'm not strong enough to carry this. And about that time, there was a knock on my door.
Tell them hope isn't far away. There's new life in Jesus' name. And I'm not ashamed.
All right. Well, welcome to For the Kingdom.
Yeah.
Today we have a special guest. We have retired Command Sergeant Major Chris Fields. Chris,
appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's so Chris. I met Chris through Sherry, who was our very first episode launched.
Wow.
So she wasn't the first episode recorded, but her story. Amazing woman.
Absolutely.
Amazing woman.
Absolutely.
How did you actually meet Sherry?
Well, it started off, we did a mission trip through our church with her to just outside of Jolo, West Virginia. It's another
very poor,
very, very poor area. Very, very poor. In fact, it's I think it's the poorest in the nation, and a lot of things come to mind, but just very rural, very
cold country.
Very, very cold. Yeah, great cold country. But we did a back to school event there, and so I helped drive, and my wife was involved, and it God's blessing through there because it fed our hearts to serve more, so much that my wife now, Debbie, is working for the APAC, and every day we count it just as joy.
Yeah,
a blessing.
So when I met Sherry, she said, because I'm always like, hey, I need more guests. You got somebody, and she said, she said you got to meet Chris. He's like did a lot in the Army, and she said that you were very helpful with her son at one point, and so. So now here you are,
and here I am.
Here you are. So
yeah, I count it all as blessing. There's a great feeling when you can when you give to others without any expectations of receiving anything back, and I think that's kind of the call to glory for me, at least, is I want to do things where I know that people can't do anything back. And I walk away very quiet.
Okay, well, I'm putting you on my short list now.
Oh, good.
You know what I'm saying? When I need a favor.
Yeah.
All right. So a little bit of background. Command Sergeant Major, retired, 30 years in the Army, and of course I can't list everything because there's a lot. So leadership. Scout leader, squad leader, sniper section leader, platoon sergeant, first sergeant, command sergeant major. Hey, what was the best job though?
Oh, the best job.
I mean, they all got their
They all had their
yeah.
things. I think I never thought I was going to make it past staff sergeant.
Okay.
I never thought I was going to. Every year, it kind of kept on going. I think the best job that I ever had. My wife says that she married Forrest Gump.
Mm,
Because very eclectic. My career went just crazy. My first duty station was in Berlin, Germany,
okay.
when the wall was still up, and I guarded Rudolf Hess, prisoner number 7 out of the Nuremberg trials. And when I tell young soldiers that, they kind of go, "You were in World War II?" No, 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 no. I'm old, but not that old. And then just so many things. I was on an operation in North Korea where we brought in 21 sets of remains from the Korean War. And so spending 28 days in Pyongyang, North Korea, and the surrounding area, looking for the sites where MIAs were buried, and bringing them home was truly a lifetime want, because when I was growing up, I remember watching on TV the MIAs, or prisoners of war, coming home from Vietnam, and I just remember that clearly, of war first being on TV, the Vietnam War, and wondering, it was sad, that unfortunate that there were families out there that didn't have the answers. And then I was in the opening ceremony of the '96 Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia, and bringing in the streamers that kind of came down on the field. And I mean, I could go on with just I was on the All Army shooting team, and competed at the national shooting in Camp Perry, Ohio. It just there's just too many things. And so my wife always says, I married Forrest Gump. Sort of like, I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Big Fish.
Uh-uh.
It's a long story. It's a great movie. It's a long story, but basically it is, this father has told these stories to his son all these years, and unfortunately he's at the he's getting ready to go to glory, and so he's reliving some of these stories, and his son has traveled, and it's like, "Dad, I'm tired of your stories. They're all they're not real." And he goes, "Well, I'm sorry you feel like that, son." And then when he passes, all these people from these stories show up at his funeral.
Really?
And basically they kind of cast him off into this pond, and he turns into this big fish. But all of the people of all the stories are there, and the son goes, "Wow,
It's all real.
What a life." And so my kids, I have 3 and a bonus son. But all 3 of my kids have heard a majority of my stories, and every once in a while, one of those characters from my life will come in,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll sit down at our kitchen table, and my kids will be quiet and just listen. And as they leave, they're like, "I didn't think that was a true story. Why? I'm not going to tell you, fish stories." And so it kind of goes off into the folklore of life. So,
Well, this kind of, a lot of this kind of birthed out of that. When I became a Christian, I started journaling.
mm-hmm.
And I think I read somewhere that smart people journal. And I said, well, I want to be smart.
Sure.
And so I recorded all those things. And then I journaled all on my deployments, and I have them all. Most people don't have those. And I'm a college professor, and there was another English professor. He was like, you should let me help you write a book.
Oh, yeah.
This was probably like 5 years ago. I still haven't done it. And then the vision for this came in, and I said, well, this is probably more fun, because, we get to tell your story here. And some of my story gets interjected every now and then, but we get to tell your story. But most importantly, we get to tell the story of the King.
Absolutely.
And, that's what this is all about, is, how he's been involved in your life, and the direction he's taken you, and how he's grown you, and now how he uses you to expand his kingdom.
Yeah.
And so I love it.
Right.
So no favorite position. It's that you love them all.
I think as a platoon sergeant, that was, you're right there in the
Yeah.
meat of the things. But I think as a command sergeant major, I had a, a good influence.
Hmm.
So I would say as a command sergeant major, not because I was at the top of the heap, but but it was during that tender that I came back to God really, really strong. And it was through a lifetime of experiences,
Yeah.
not only in the Army, but also in my childhood, that all culminated. And it was at that point that I think that I truly was the best leader that I
And
really
we're
could
going to
have
get
been.
into that.
Yeah.
How that happened. So multiple tours overseas. I noticed in there you put your education. You went to Liberty University,
I did.
to
I
get
did.
a degree in counseling. I think a
Yep.
master's degree in counseling.
Right.
And I'm actually a Liberty University alumni.
Oh, well. Okay.
And so I went to Liberty in 1997.
Wow. Wow.
Jerry Falwell was still alive
Mhm.
then. And
Yeah.
in fact, he used to drive a Suburban and would kind of pretend to like run over people when they were crossing the road.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he did that a few times. So, but yeah, Liberty was a good school. I felt like I got a good education, and
It brought me out of some of the misgivings that I had. Truly, it was a really, you have to take some classes that you wouldn't normally ever do.
like what?
I think mine was on accepting other people's point of view.
Oh
sometimes.
yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah. And it was people that aren't of faith, and having consideration for them, and that was kind of hard for me because the conversation was always a little bit jaded from a military standpoint, a very meat eater kind of approach to it. And then the comment board, you had to comment three of your peers, and some of the comments back were really. I had to walk away from my computer because it was going against my my warrior spirit in me. It was that point of view wasn't something that I would normally have. But what it did is it gave me a different perspective that helped to build my vernacular, that I could really approach people in a different direction, not just with the spearhead, but we could use the back of the spear as well as kind of helping a guide.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So, Ranger School, Jump Master, Airborne, Pathfinder, Sniper School, French Command, Foreign Legion. I tell everybody I'm a 5-jump chump, and I'm proud of it. Of course, Command Sergeant Major Academy. How long is Command Sergeant Major Academy?
Well, normally it's a complete year,
Yeah.
basically, because they want you to move lock, stock, and barrel there, have some family time, those kind of things. But we were on a reduced, because the war had just kind of started kicking in, so they wanted to kind of turn us out and put us back into circulation, basically.
Okay.
So we were there 7 months, 6, 7 months. Yeah. But it was very fast. And the way that they reduced it was they took away all of our 3-day weekends, and just kept on going. Great school. It's, the PhD level of enlisted academia. There was some arguments on perspective, obviously, from different backgrounds, mechanized to infantry to airborne to air assault and all those things. But a great time, because it was more about networking, because we didn't have all the sergeants majors don't have all the answers, but they do make those connections to where I can call somebody and say, hey, look, does this sound normal? Or, hey, how can I get best out of XYZ? And so we were able to call out to another sergeant major who was an SME that would, a subject matter expert, who would come back and say, hey, look, you probably want to go this direction.
Yeah, I think just for the audience, people don't realize how hard it is to make command sergeant major. This is, I mean, the way I see it's different than making colonel or lieutenant colonel. It's just you have so many enlisted guys going through the ranks. I mean, you're competing with a lot of people,
right?
And so I love sergeant majors. I told you a story, and I'll tell you another story. And so this is my first dining in as a lieutenant.
No.
As a lieutenant, I fortunately was not in charge of the dining in.
Sure.
You know, so but I show up early. Okay, dress blues. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's backwards.
Oh yeah.
You know, I had that book and I was, put it on my bed. I was doing it, and guess who's sitting at the bar?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sergeant Major. He says, "Hey," and the thing is, he didn't tell one person. He said, "Hey, LT, man, let's go in the bathroom." And he totally fixed me up, man. I just stood there and he fixed me in a couple minutes. He did not tell one person to embarrass me. And I just really respected him for that. I mean, I was embarrassed. I never did it again. And, but I really respected him. And I told you this story when we started. When I got to my first unit, the first person I met, I was lost. You said lieutenant stands for lost.
Yeah. Can't spell lost without LT. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm in like this courtyard, and I meet the battalion sergeant major. He's sitting there, and he said, "Hey, LT, let me just come and sit down. I just want to teach you some things."
Yeah.
And he said something along the lines like, "If it's your last cigarette, you share it with the private. Officer should eat last. You lead from the front. You think about the mission first, soldiers always." And that really stuck with me. What does it mean to be a selfless leader?
Right.
Think about your men first, not about your rank or some award or anything like that. And, I really took that to heart, and I appreciated him. And he ended up going from the battalion to eventually the Corps Sergeant Major. And I just love that guy.
I think true leadership follows biblical principles.
Yes.
Period. Do unto others as they'd have to do unto you. But more importantly is do things for others who can't do anything for you. It's so often that you have leaders who will put themselves higher on a pedestal just because they have done X, Y, Z, but they didn't get there by their own accord. Their determination is, but there's others that have surrounded them that were not so much a supporting cast, but helped make that, that go. And you will learn more from poor leadership than you will from good leadership, because good leadership is what is expected. But poor leadership, there are guys who make decisions to get out of the service, and some of those reasons when I was a CSM that I would ask guys, why are you getting out of the Army? Tell me. And they would say, well, it's not as hard as it should be. I'm not doing the job that I came in the Army to do, and my leadership isn't as good as they should be. And so we would always kind of go back into a self look at ourselves and say, okay, hey, am I meeting these criteria? Am I treating the soldier with respect? They don't want a pushover. They want somebody who's hard but fair, and they want somebody who is a leader from the front. And that's not just standing first in line. It's standing in front of warrior tasks and skills, your ability and your efficiency in leading those skills. And I guess the most importantly is that those skills are to be passed on. They're not you're not the goalkeeper of all the knowledge. You're supposed to spend all your time learning the knowledge and then helping them to learn it. It's not telling them, but it's showing them. And I think that fits right back into the biblical model that we should be living.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, so a lot of awards, too many to list, but just to give you some credentials right here. You've already got them, but Legion of Merit, 5 Bronze Stars, 2 with Valor, 2 Purple Hearts, and I wrote in here a lot more because I was tired of listing them.
Yeah.
But a couple things. So really involved in Life Point Church.
Yeah.
Peer intervention, which we'll get into, like, what does that mean? Pastor care provider. Did I pronounce that right?
Pastoral care.
Pastoral care provider. And of course, when I met you last time, and I really love this because Debbie's your wife.
Yes.
You mentioned something. You were like, "Hey, Jeff, I got to go because I think you were going to go to like secondhand stores or something."
Yeah, my wife and I we make it a priority.
Yeah,
us.
That's what I love.
Yeah, we make it a priority. So kind of the way that we have grown is we used to put kind of everything, everything of importance of everything. But the reality is we always put God first, and then we put each other, and then those kids. We always kind of go in that order.
So you're speaking life into me because I have found some of this challenging, and
so maybe this will help you with your perspective. And I don't know how it'll go over with the audience, but I will say this. We always say that there's no bank accounts, there's no banks in heaven, and there's no luggage racks on a hearse. The only thing that we may be able to take with us is our wife and our children. For we lead our house to the Lord. Not that we're going to know that they are, that we're going to be slapping them on the back and all those things. But we do know that if we lead our house to the Lord, that the high probability of them seeing them in heaven is there. So the only thing that we have, even a faint chance of taking from this world to the next, will be our kids and our wife. So why not spend the time? At one time, our kids kind of danced around the thing about, what's our inheritance? And my wife immediately turned around and says, nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
We're going to stroke a check for an orphanage in Uganda,
Yeah.
or where. And my kids are like, you mean everything? Yeah, everything. Because this is all going to turn to dust.
Yeah. You got to make it for the kingdom.
That's it.
Eternity.
Exactly. And we laugh because our date that we do each week, or we try to each week, is to go to secondhand stores. And we buy things because in reality, we're only renting the stuff of this world. None of it's ours. And our prayer is that we're good stewards of it. So if somebody needs something, we give just gratefully. Here, you need my shirt off my back? Here you go. Because it's not ours. God graces us with a blessing. So why do we hoard it? Why do we keep it? Now, I say that, and I have 2 garage full of stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is, we are blessed with caring for my mother-in-law right now. And so her many, many years of life are in Commander Totes, in the middle of our garage. And so that takes them. We have a son that's in college, so some of his stuff is there. And an 18-year-old daughter that some of her, childhood memory stuff, that she wants to take with her, that's stacked in there. And and in the other side, I have some very old antiques that I still work with restoring. But the point of all of that is that we make time for our loved ones. And I saw there's a new show out right now. It's called Madison. and it's about this guy going to the Madison River, which I like to fly fish, and that's where I went to fly guide school. So another one of those things is I'm
I didn't
actual
see that on the list.
yeah yeah. So I'm
the
a
fly guide
fly
school.
fishing guide. Yeah, and he goes there, and unfortunately, he is wrestling with life, as we all do. And his brother is really mad at God. He took his wife, and um, they have some very emotional moments in it. But they, and I don't want to ruin for anybody who's watching it, but they have an accident. And so his family is now left from New York. You take somebody from New York who's lived there all in the city all their life with all that is in that lifestyle and put them in the middle of Montana. It's very austere. Like they don't have running water inside the house. They have an outhouse. My point with all that is she finds his diary, his journal. And in that, for 20 or 30 years, how long they were married, he's been going up there and fly fishing every year. He takes this annual trip with he and his brother, and he has written thoughts, and he's written the simplicity of making coffee on a stove, a wood burning stove, and what makes it good. Putting an egg in it, and it takes all this, just all the
slowing
down. And she is very distraught at his passing. But through that journal, he is able to give her the depth of his love, even after the fact. And I'm coming back full circle to where I was heading with that is spend the time to make those memories with your families now. And you don't have to have the hopes that they will remember the moments that you had.
Mm-hmm.
And so
it goes quick, doesn't it?
It goes quick. Boy, I'll tell you.
How old are you now?
I am now 60 plus. How's
okay,
that?
60 plus. Okay,
yeah, right. And I'm still in my mindset of the 30s. But I really can't remember too much of that. I mean, I played a lot of rugby during that time and loved those days. But but in that is when I was at grad school, my son would come downstairs, and my daughter as well, and they would come in the door and say, "Oh, you're busy," and I would, no matter what, I would stop, and I said, "I'm never too busy for you." And they would come and curl up on my lap and just
good.
Say,
you figured it out then.
Yeah, I figured it out. I don't always exercise it as well as I should.
Yeah.
But there are times in which I stop everything. My daughter, who is 18 now, still comes in every day before she goes to work and says, "Daddy, I'm leaving to go to work, and I love you. Have a safe drive to work, and I'll see you when you get home." Never pass an opportunity to tell somebody exactly how you feel, because there's a lot of people out there who wake up in the morning and they're not going home. They're going to glory, for the believer. And so I don't take life for granted anymore. It's a day not promised. My wife says it all the time. It's a day not promised. We have to see it that way. And how much kindness can you show during the day? Unfortunately, the stigma of being a sergeant major, a command sergeant major, or a leader in the Army is that there are those moments where you're not that kind. But even in that, you still can be a great representative of God.
So the takeaway is love your wives, date your wives, cherish the relationships, because you're not guaranteed tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
All right. So 2 sons.
And plus one.
Eli. Yeah, so you got Gavin, Gabriel, and Eli.
That's correct.
And now what are their ages?
So 27 is Gavin, and he is married to an amazing woman. Not only does she just love my son deeply, but she's the wonderful mother of our grandson, and his name
How
is,
many grandkids do you have now?
well, one,
Okay.
Roman. Yeah,
Okay.
Roman is his name, and just phenomenal. A great family. They are learning their way, and I would say that it's not without some bumps and
Yeah, oh
bruises along the
yeah.
way.
Oh yeah.
But they are a great they're great parents. You want the best for your kids, and you know that we didn't always do it right. And I'll be the first one to say I did it completely wrong for many years. Um, Gavin, my oldest son, literally, I ripped him. Oof, boy, I got a little emotional there. I ripped his little heart out. Ooh. I don't think I've ever even said that without tearing up. Ooh. I'll get it here. um, he has turned into a hell of a man, and I didn't always do it right, and I'm very um, I'm not resentful from my actions, but what I am is I am uh, hurt because I could have done so much better with him. But he has developed into such a good man. Um, do we all have some faults? Absolutely. And so, about age 14, he said, I'm going to join the Marine Corps just to get as far away from you as possible. And and I knew a lot of things had to change. And so I didn't just say it, I did it. And at 17 and a half, around there, he said, Dad, will you take me down to the recruiter? I want to be just like you. And so just what an amazing moment, amazing time of it is. Thanks. Good Lord. Big old crybaby. Um, an amazing time. Now, um, he went to the Army. He did his time, not the way that he wanted it to, but it was a time of exploration for him.
hmm
And came home and married his high school sweetheart. And they have, like I said, just a great little family unit, and they're doing well. So well that on Roman's first birthday, they gave us a little treat, and we opened up this box, and we're going to have. She's pregnant again.
Oh, that's
Blessed,
great.
yeah, with twins.
I can tell you one thing,
Mm.
Chris, that when your son sees this and he hears um, that you say he's like one heck of a man,
Yeah.
it's going to go a long way with your
Yeah.
son. So
I think there are still some points that he and I are learning, and I think it's all in God's time, it's all in God's management, and we both allow that to happen. And he is on an amazing journey right now of just um, consuming as much of the Bible as he can. And so do I see that as all that happened to him while he was a young man has led to the path of the reversal? I don't want to be like my dad in these early years. I want to be a better father. Okay. Is it worth the pain that we created? I don't know. Only God knows that. But I do know that things have changed because God has been brought into both of our lives and into our relationship. Are there still friction points? Absolutely, absolutely. But all in all, I think that as we progress through our both of our journey of getting into the Word and getting into the understanding that God will use bad for good, I think we're on the right path.
Well, don't beat yourself up too much. I can just imagine, you know, command sergeant major, multiple deployments, high op tempo.
Yeah.
You had to be a different man. And
Mhm.
uh, I mean, heck, as an officer, I was scared of half my sergeant majors. I mean, you had to be stern, hold the
Sure.
standards,
Sure.
and it's and so you don't seem that way now, even though I know that part's still in you. But Chris over here is very loving, kind,
Mhm.
But
Yeah. I do know. You know that we were talking about that first mission trip with Sherry.
yeah,
We were in the church, and we were all getting ready to get into the van. And so we were in a circle. We were praying it off. We were, praying, "Hey, just give us safe travel. Do this. Let your word be done. Let us be your hands and feet." Those kind of things. And across the way, there was a dude who was mean mugging me. I'm like, "Man, do I owe you money?" I mean, I just, I don't, didn't know it. And so we went on the trip. And so the very first night, we're sitting there, and he walked up. He says, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "Hey, brother, I got a little bit of the Dane Bramage. I got blowed up a few
yeah,
times, and he said, you were my squad leader in, such and such unit."
really,
And I was like, "Well, hey, man, great, And so we got to talking, laughing, and joking. I said, "Hey, dude, I got to go upstairs, take a shower, whatever." So my wife was still there, and they were talking. And so I cleared the room, got upstairs, went and closed the door, and he goes, "What did you do to him? That was the meanest blah blah."
yeah.
He was very explicit on I was not a nice guy, and she goes, I just can't see that in him. There was a time.
You
There
got to
was a
be
time.
hard.
Yeah, but I think, like I said, you can be a great leader, but you also can lead with consideration.
Hmm.
And I'm not talking about the touchy feely Kleenex box kind of leader. I'm talking about, hey, look, and we talked about it a few minutes ago earlier, that I would much rather get, 7 ounces of sweat out of you versus Article 15, or, uh, paperwork, because this is going to have a detriment on the projection of your career. I'd rather make it muscle memory that you don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the service is needing more of, is a leader who is not going to tell you what to do, but to show you what to do and live what he or she says that you're supposed to do.
So Chris, you've got and we haven't mentioned Emily. So Emily is your girl.
Oh man, you want to talk
Melting your heart over here
melting
already,
my
right?
heart, man. I'll tell you
How old's
what,
Emily?
Emily. You know, uh, my mother, who is, I got something in my eye, but my mother, who was an amazing woman. When we said that we were pregnant, she said, "I think it's gonna be a girl." And I said, "Whoa, whoa, freeze, freeze there." And when I was getting ready to deploy again, and so my wife, loving, did a very special gift for me, and that was, or for us, we went down and did a 3D ultrasound. So a 3D picturing, they
Yeah,
can do
yeah.
imagery, yeah. And it was down in Nashville, and so we went down, and the doctor, I mean, they're taking these pictures, and he's looking at it, and he goes, "Oh wow, looks like you're gonna have a baby girl." And I'm like, "What?" And so he went down. I said, "Hey doc, could you go back up and just look one more time?" And he went up, and he said, "Hey,
It's a girl.
Sergeant Major, I'll tell you, I've been doing this for a lot of years, and the last time I checked, it's still the same. You're going to be a father." And I was in shock. not that it was, not that it's a bad thing at all. I love my daughter. I mean, she's an amazing woman. But it was I didn't want my mother to be correct,
Yeah.
because she said, "Oh, she is gonna have you twisted around her finger, all those things." No way, no way.
And sure enough, that's happened.
Sure enough, and I'll be first one to say that I love that girl. She's still, she's 18 years old, and before she goes to work, she'll come in and she'll give me a hug, and it's not a hey, this is uncomfortable. It is a connection between a father and daughter that it's just crazy. And I'll tell you, when we had her in jiu-jitsu, um, she was just, ponytails and hey, how are and the little boys would run away from her.
But kicking some butt out there,
Oh my
right?
gosh, she was fast, and she would just overpower them. Then and then she'd get up, hey, thank you very much, and go to the next one. And still to this day, I think one of the times that she always impresses me every day. I mean, they're just things that are the slightest things. But one of the days, she used to care for horses, mucking out stalls. I mean, she's just a hard worker. She's gonna do well. And she was working with a horse, and she had, dad, can you come down and just kind of help out a little bit? Sure, I'll come down and help. I'm not. And it was a former racehorse who had gotten hurt, and so still same spirit, but not so much.
Yeah.
And she had it by the lead, and she was kind of going out to just get it into a stall, or a corral, so you run around, and you get all high spirited. And I was like, oh no. And the horse reared back and kind of jerked the lead out of her hand and just burned her hands. And I just kind of watched her, gotta let, when they fall down, you gotta let them get up a little bit. And she immediately turned to me and said, Dad, hit the emergency gate closure. And I got it. And I said, okay. So I walked over and closed the gate, and the gate closed automatically. And she crowded down, and I mean, kind of bloodied hands or scuffed up hands, and got the horse and got it back into where it needed to be. And I said, all right. She's got some grit. She's gonna do well.
I've got two tough daughters.
Yeah,
Lillian and Elizabeth, and they're tough.
Yeah,
and they do. They're the apple of my eye. They got me wrapped around a finger too. And my son Landon, I love him, and he's becoming a man after God's heart too. So,
yeah, that's amazing. Our middle son Gabriel, who he'll kind of fit. I mean, he'll be in the kind of my testimony here, but he is a junior at North Georgia College.
Okay.
Just living life in its great wonders. He's right now down in Florida. He joined a fraternity, which but I would
maybe it's an academic fraternity.
Well, actually, it's a very faith-based fraternity.
So that's good.
Yeah, and but having a good time, and I've seen him come kind of full circle, where he has found a close network of individuals who they do a Bible study. They do a lot of things that makes a father happy. But it also appears to his heart to be good for him, and so we're seeing some good stuff. So we're not sure if he's going to commission or not, but he is going to a really reputable college, and that's from where my wife's family is from, in Dahlonega, Georgia. So
that's near where them Rangers do some training too.
That could be where I spent.
You spent some time there.
Yeah, I was an RI there for a few years, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I love that time.
Those boars running into the woods.
Yeah.
Ticks and all that.
All the good stuff.
Good stuff. So, well, hey, before we kind of kick off your story, I want to give you a small gift.
Oh, man.
And so we got to do it properly.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. So that is, I run a school. I call that my director's coin. And so on there in Latin, it says, for the care of the whole person. And which is some of what we're going to get into today.
Great.
You know, you got to talk about the mind, body, and soul and how to care for that. And so the other thing is, this is kind of my go-to, you know, and so here we are not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
And so you can put that in your garage gym or wherever you want it.
It will be in my gym. That'd be great.
You know, remember the show and what we talked about, and so
Absolutely. Never ashamed.
Never ashamed.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
I will call you sir, but I know you don't go by that title.
No.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and just kind of start from the beginning. You know, where'd you grow up, and what was that look like? And
well, not that I'm embarrassed, but I will say that I keep that kind of close hold.
Okay,
yeah,
totally cool, man.
No, I'm from the left coast.
Yeah,
I grew up in California, out in the middle of the desert, and I'm not a transplant. I'm not a refugee. We call them California refugees right now. Had a very eclectic childhood. Really pretty tough. Everybody had a tough childhood. You know, I'm not anybody special, but for me, a lot of things kind of were set in motion for me to be the product of difficulties. My mother, an amazing woman. She taught me everything from basketball to boxing, and it was really kind of strange. She was blonde hair, blue eyes, 5'11", almost 6 foot. I'm the runt of the litter, basically. An amazing woman. And what made her amazing was, you know, in the 50s and 60s, you really didn't have a mixture of ethnic groups like it is today. And so my father is Mexican, and my mother was, you know, like I said, blonde hair, blue eyed.
Yeah, this wasn't normal.
That wasn't normal.
No.
It wasn't normal. And but what is ironic about it is the two families actually had people that through the years had married, and it just was kind of a natural thing. And so my grandfather really didn't accept it, and so my mother kind of was ostracized, and there I am. And my father, though still alive to this day.
How old's your dad?
He is 85.
Okay.
Now, 85. He has come to the Lord. He had a very Rolling Stone kind of life. You know, I'm not angry. There was a time that I was very angry about it all. He and my mother divorced very early. There was infidelity. There was some things that just didn't work out well.
Did your mom mostly raise you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your mom sounds like a tough lady.
Absolutely. There was,
brothers and sisters in the picture, or what?
Well, yes. So as the story goes on, my mother and my father, they divorced very early, and so my mom and I were kind of on our own. And she met a man who 65, 60, whatever, after Vietnam, had some PTSD, did not treat me as well as probably could have. A lot of those kind of bouts of just physical cruelty, and it was tough. You know, there was a tough time, and really never until later on it was like, hey, accept me as his son, you know. And so there was a time in which my mother actually had to send me away, and so she sent me to Missouri, to the farm. And my grandfather, who really didn't accept me, and there
so
was
you went to go live with your grandfather.
Went to go with my aunt.
Okay,
but because of some issues inside the house, and I'll just say that I had an uncle at the time who was very abusive, horribly, and
To your aunt or to everybody?
mainly to me. I was this kid out of California with at that time kind of blondish hair because I surfed a little
Yeah.
bit, um, just an odd bird, there in rural Missouri, and so just very very abusive, and my aunt could see it and wanted to get me away from it.
So this probably wasn't any better than your house was.
No.
Yeah, worse.
No, it was worse because at that time, and again, not speaking poorly about anybody, but my at this time, my mom had again, I love her very much, but she pulled up to LAX and handed me a ticket and go in there and you'll see TWA. Now I'm 7.
You're 7.
7. Yeah, 7. You'll go right in there and you'll see the word TWA. Go in there, show them that ticket, and you'll get on the aircraft and you're going to land in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and your aunt will be there to pick you up. No cell phones.
Yeah,
No,
7's
no.
a little young,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, but hey, it's okay. And bam, there I am.
Was your mom a believer then? I'm not sure.
I think she was a believer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt in the later part of her life she was absolutely a believer.
Yeah.
But I think it was a time of mid-60s,
Different
yeah,
time.
different times.
So how old were you when you went to Missouri?
7. So I went there.
7.
Yeah,
That's young. Man.
7, and got off in the air. Got off, and my aunt was late, so I'm sitting
By yourself.
I have my little travel case. I don't know what it was in it. I can't remember that. And she picked me up and learned very young how to bale hay and doctor cows and milk cows. And
How long were you in Missouri?
Well, so my like I said, my uncle was very cruel to me. I remember calling my mom and asking I need to come home, and it was $86 for a ticket, and she couldn't afford it. And so it was the feeling of total abandonment. And I didn't figure this all out until later on in life. And there were so many small lessons along the way there that it was really good. My grandfather was not the nicest guy, but he was like, all right, I'll tolerate you because, you're my grandson kind of thing. At a young age, I'm driving a tractor, and I don't know if I was doing right, wrong, or indifferent. He was kind of neutral to the whole thing, but I don't remember a lot of the stuff that happened. Just because your body will build a defense mechanism away from bad things. Not always bad, I mean, we've got to swim in the pond and those kind of things.
Did your aunt know this was going on? No.
She was very. She was a cocktail waitress, so her
Working
days,
nights and
working nights, her days were spent sleeping, and she did the best that she could. My cousin and I, she and I kind of raised ourselves, from time to time, and we got into a little bit of mischievous, things, fist fights in the middle of the kitchen, and she and I were probably she was more my sister growing up than anything else. In fact, she married my really close friend from 5th group. My best friend.
Really?
Yeah. And they lived just an amazing life. We had some great times. Unfortunately, she passed a few years ago from cancer, and tough on both he and I, and her brother Bill, and just tough things, because she was very much a believer, and she went to the Lord knowing that she was saved, and lived accordingly to it as well.
You see her again.
I will see her again.
You see her again.
Yeah. but the childhood trauma was really kind of set the stage for a lot of the decisions that I made later on down the road. Differently, I think, and like I said, what Satan meant for bad,
Mm-hmm.
God will always use it for good.
So how long did you stay in Missouri?
Just a couple of years,
Okay.
a full school year. Went to school there. That was really different for me. My mom had moved on and started dating another guy who, good dude, good guy, and former or a Marine, Vietnam vet, Purple Heart kind of guy, severe PTSD.
So you went back to California?
Went back to California.
Okay.
And we lived right on the beach. Really kind of
Nice,
strange.
right?
Yeah,
surfing
that
a
was
little bit, and you had
well.
some
That
sun.
was
and,
that was my babysitter.
Yeah.
Go to the beach. But backing up, because it kind of fits with the beach thing, is my aunt knew that how important it was to go to church, and she sent me to a church camp, and I was part of the Royal Rangers. I don't know if you know, it's like equivalent or beginning of like Boy Scouts, but it was
Okay.
with the church.
I think I've heard that before. Yeah.
And we were doing a raft race, and again, I'm probably 7.5 now. We're doing a raft race, and so you have two ropes across this pond and two actual rafts, like wooden rafts, all lashed together.
Wooden ones. Okay.
Ones,
It's like Huckleberry Finn stuff right here.
Absolutely, Missouri, right there on And we were going across, and ours tipped. And when it tipped, I was on this side, and everybody followed on top of me, and I couldn't get up. I couldn't swim very well. In fact, I couldn't swim at all. And I remember just the lights kind of going out, and there's cattails on this side, and I'm being pushed down in the cattails, and all of a sudden the lights went out. And the next thing I know, that I'm on the side of the being drug out, and revived, and cough it all out of my lungs, and the pastor goes, "Hey, you all right?" And I'm still coughing. "I'll give you an ice cream. Don't tell your aunt." Basically that was it. "Yeah, you're good. You're tough. Yeah, keep on going." But drowned.
Yeah.
And so fast forward, I'm laying, working or living off the beach, and swimming and all those things, and I'm swimming one day and get caught in the undertow. Now this time I'm probably maybe 10, 9 or 10, whatever.
You're still young.
Still young, and being pulled out by the
Yeah.
undertow. And I can remember, again, the light getting small, and I'm floating down. I'm so tired, and I'm floating down, and I can see if you've ever been underneath a wave, the wave, as it curls, you see all that white water, and it just curls, and you could feel this push up and down, and I just floop out. And next thing I know, I'm waking up, and I'm like 50 yards down the beach, coughing and wheezing in the surf.
So you kind of washed up.
I just washed up. And it was just like, that's weird. And got up and coughed, and it was at that point, I said, "Hey, Mom, I need some lessons. I got to figure out how this swimming thing is." And she took me down. It was late. Normally you learn to swim a little bit earlier than that. And took me down to the YMCA, and basically said, "Hey, lady, get him out of our pool. He's endangering our insurance policy.
Yeah.
This guy, he's never gonna be able. So he's a rock." And it was at that point that I said, "I'm not going to be defeated by this." And so I started. Every time I got side of the pool, I would just kick, and basically kind of taught myself how to swim. So much that in high school, I went from the football team to the swim team,
Really?
to the golf team. and taught I am not going to be inhibited by what people say I can't do.
Is that the kind of mindset you continue to carry on? Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because at one point, my grandfather said that I would be nothing more than a dirty Mexican, and that stuck with me. For I'll show you.
You'll show everybody.
I'll show everybody. Get out of my way.
And
Here.
you did. And you did.
I did, but it wasn't. I don't think it was out of the goodness of my heart. It was out of the vengeance.
It didn't feel good.
It didn't feel good, but it sure did at the time. So much that I was on the swim team. I'm gonna show you, and then later on, I'm a rescue diver. I'd in the Army, went down to Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, in the Sinai, and went to dive school and got that, and then just kind of progressed and have dove all around the world now. And it's like, I'm not going to allow what people say I can't do to inhibit me. And so much that when I got wounded the second time, they said, "Hey man, you got the Dane Bramage," and I laugh about it. But somebody said I would never ever be able to make it through grad school because of it. And I said, hold my pen while I do this, and finished early, actually. So I was able to knock out a master's degree way before I was supposed to, projected.
So it did, I think about even some of my own life, like never super close, like I was adopted, my parents divorced, never super close to my dad. And just like I'll show you, I kind of look back on my younger years and say, I was successful for some reason because I was trying to like make my dad proud.
Absolutely.
Not the right way to be successful.
No. And I would tell you that validation only comes from the father. A mother will do everything that she can. But what imperial knowledge does she have of being a young man? And this is the same thing is we were never ever supposed to be separated from the father, ever. Now, I'm not saying that there's not justifiable reasons for marriages, abuse, I get it, but I'm always a proponent on a family unit, because here's the essence. The essence is just like biblically, if you look at Jesus and God and vice versa, he's always seeking the God.
What is the Father telling me to do?
What is the Father?
Not doing my will, but the Father's.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And because we have strayed from that as a society, you see this brokenness, and you hear it so often now. If you want to see the probability projection of a young man, look at his home.
Yeah.
Truly, because how do we perpetuate the masculinity of our world? Not toxic masculinity. I can't believe that just came out of my mouth, because I really don't like to even say that. But what is true masculinity? It's not what you do in the thought of the world, but way you fill the biblical understanding. You will leave your mother and father and cling to one another. And we have the stewardship of being a father. It is a great honor and a responsibility that goes far beyond just the biologics of it. It truly is. How do you validate a young man? John Eldridge wrote a book, Wild at Heart.
Great book.
Great book. Great book. And it's a great template to what we should look for, and where is it that we are lacking. All the different stages of a man's life, from cowboy to beloved son to the cowboy, and then into the warrior, and then to the king and the sage. All of those phases have a clear kind of a clear line of how we should be. It used to be, when you were when your father was a blacksmith. You're the son of the blacksmith. You are the son of, and fill in the blank. And you were accepted into that guild, that masculine. Hey, this is what it is to be a good man. You know, where are your values, and how can we uh, form those values into what is going to make you a productive member of society, not a rich man, or not a man that has a lot of possessions, but a man who's going to give back to society what he should. And that is the stability of the understanding that men are supposed to be upright individuals. And we don't have to belittle others to be not in charge or in command of them, but to lead. You can be a quiet leader. And I always tell leaders that somebody is always looking. Do the right thing when nobody is looking.
Especially your sons.
Especially your sons.
They're looking.
All right.
So, okay, so you had that mindset. I'm not going to fail. No one's ever going to tell me I'm not going to do something. You learn how to swim.
Right.
You're like 10 in California. Like what's next? I mean, you're going to go now middle school and high school, and then
yeah. So I start going, hey, I'm a little guy. I'm gonna play football. You know, and some of the guys in my neighborhood, you know, just kind of we all went and played sports every day. It kept us, you know, pretty much out of trouble, depending on what the definition is, and started playing football, and had a great youth coach, Mr. Stiles, and we did really well. It was a good team, but we lost a game, and we were like, and he goes, hey, look, gentlemen, you know, the sun's gonna rise in the east and set in the west, and it's gonna be another day. Let's get out here and practice. And it was kind of that mantra of, hey, look, do your best. Find out where you're not doing as well as you should, improve on that, and where the cards land is where they land, but you do everything that you can. And I think that led me to deciding that I wasn't just gonna hang out on the beach all my life. I wanted to do something else. And at a young age, I always knew that I was going to join the Army.
You always knew it.
I always knew it.
You wanted to be a soldier.
I did. It was really uncanny because, like, my mother, 1 year just made me a uniform, and I was very young. I think it was probably when my 66, 67. And
what, like a little army soldier?
Little army, yeah,
uniform?
little army, everything, GI Joes, the whole
okay.
bit, kung fu grip, I knew that was, and so much that when I was going into high school, I took German in California. And my mother goes, Spanish is the second language in California. Why would you not? Because I'm going to Germany. How are you going to do that? I don't know, but I know I'm going to Germany. And sure enough, that was kind of my mindset. And I came home one day, in fact, I told my recruiter's name was John Hess. Now, I can't remember what I ate yesterday, but I can remember his name. John and Staff Sergeant John Hess. And he had called me, I don't know, maybe January. Hey, it's your senior year. What are you doing? I'll be down in June. Don't bother me.
Yeah.
Or May. And he called me one more time, and I said, look, hey, if you don't stop bothering me, I'm going to join the Marine Corps. And he goes, okay, I won't call you. And sure enough, man, that I went down and enlisted, and I was gone.
So you just graduated high school.
Just graduated high school.
Enlisted in the Army.
Enlisted in the Army. I was still 17. Went to basic training. Did real well in basic training. And at that time, they had what they called drill corporals. And so I was retained as a drill corporal. You went to a board like you were getting promoted.
Okay.
And did well enough to be retained. And my mother said, you just stayed because you got a whistle, because.
So you finished basic training. They actually put you in a leadership position.
Right.
As a drill corporal. Now, are you like an E4 drill corporal or?
But only frocked.
Okay. What does that mean?
So basically they just put corporal stripes on you,
Okay.
and the new enlistees never knew that you weren't
Yeah.
an NCO.
But you're still a private, though.
I'm still a
You're
private.
still a
I'm
private.
a modified private. Yeah. But learn how to march and sing cadence. And at that time, the morals of the military were a little
the
bit.
cadence was rough.
Yeah,
man.
it was rough. And I still to this day, my kids I'll start singing a song. When I'm if I'm cooking a Saturday breakfast or something like that, I'll kind of belt.
Was
out
this in the 80s? This is in the 80s.
So
okay.
that was I joined in 81. And there was a very high community of Vietnam vets, and some of these guys were some pretty rough characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was right at the time. It was needed because it was really a very transitional periods in between that. What we're actually experiencing now, where a lot of that combat experience is now dissipating out of the military, out of the Army. And you had these the remnants of a very troubled time in our country, and the military trying to raise up these old, these new recruits. You're not going to be as good as we are. Those kind of things. And but I think the lessons that they taught were really pretty good. When I first got to my first duty station in Berlin, Germany, my platoon sergeant was a guy, Sergeant First Class Trosberg, and he was out of 5th Group actually, and he had spent some time on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and just was really he unfortunately a functioning alcoholic, and I say that just from recollection. He just drank a lot, whether it was an alcoholic or not. But he taught us some things that if we were to teach today, we would be underneath the jail. He taught us some really different techniques and how to set up our ambushes, how to
barbaric type stuff.
I think it was more just field expediency.
Yeah, I mean, this is war, man.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And in Berlin, you were faced with your adversary every day. You would see the Russian staff cars, go by your concern, take pictures, and they were. It was always a kind of a cat and mouse kind of a game. But all of that to say is that the remnants of my early toolage in the Army was.
Were you enlisted as an 11 Bravo infantry guy or what?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, with a European contract, and then right when I came in, you had a big emphasis on going to the Ranger battalions. Now it's the Ranger Regiment. And so I had volunteered to go, and Glenn Coyotes was one of the generals, and we did a demonstration. And he goes, "Is there anything I can help you with?" And I'm trying to get over to the Ranger.
You told him straight up.
I told him straight up, "Hey, send me there." And he goes, "We need good people like you in Europe too. Volunteer when you come back." I'm like, all right. It never worked out, but it still was a really just fantastic time. And I can see where God closed some doors that didn't need to be open to me. And I really am very appreciative of that. But, went there. And then after Germany, I came back to California, went to Fort Ord. And Fort Ord was, just kind of starting with its.
Is that even a military facility anymore?
Not anymore. I'm really dating myself. Right. Yeah. So it's finished, I think, in 98, I think was the last, it started shutting down, and good, bad, or indifferent. But I spent a lot of time there. I went to Ranger School in 84, 13-84, man. Woo, a long time ago. But again, striving to be, get the most out of what I could get, while I was here. And a good time, a very, we did a lot of crazy stuff. Good missions. Korea, Panama, obviously the invasion of Panama. My unit was there.
What rank were you when you went to Panama?
So I had left right before they had gone over, like a month prior.
Okay.
Yeah. But so we were down there 3 months prior to the invasion, and then we came back, and I left to go. I put a packet in to go SF, and just all kinds of other stuff happened during that time. And they went over, and I was like, man,
You
I
missed
got,
out.
oh man, crazy. And just a a fun time, but really kind of crazy. A lot of things were going on, and so I went. Out. Let's see, where did I go? I came back from. We were in Honduras as well, and that was a good mission. A lot of different things.
What did you do in Honduras? What was the mission?
So the mission was border interdiction. You know, the Sandinistas and Contras were kind of having their stuff across the border. So we were up. We started in like La Ceiba, and we went all the way up to the Hamastron area, and we were just doing patrols and just maneuvers, just kind of a show of force.
Is this like to stop drugs and stuff like that, or something?
Well, it was. I think it was more of a show of force because the Sandinistas, the Nicaraguans, were coming across the border fighting against the Contras. That was the whole Contra Iran affair, all of that stuff. But I think that we were kind of a show of force, and we were doing kind of border interdiction patrols and missions out there against. We did some TCP, some traffic control points out in the middle of the countryside, and
which can be dangerous.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they were
Absolutely.
dangerous in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what you're going to find, and
Yeah.
So you did Honduras, and then you decided to go SF.
Yeah, and so at that point, I was dating just an amazing gal, and it was, hey, look, I'd rather that you steer closer to home, those kind of things, and I, like I said, she was a good lady, very good Christian lady, and so I opted not to do it at that time. I could do it later on in my career, kind of thing, and things just kind of went south after that. Maybe I felt a little bit of reluctance in my heart, and so after that, because I had put my packet in, the unit had now taken me off not taken me off the rolls, but put me as excess.
Yeah.
So now I was like,
what do I do?
The Army needs, and so I had to spend my 3 years in purgatory is what I call it, and I spent some time out on recruiting, and I was not a good mix.
No.
I got more trouble out on recruiting than ever. However, when I say trouble, it wasn't institutional trouble. It was trouble off, because, I kind of went with a mindset of I've got all this great experience and all this talent. Senior staff sergeant at the time. I may have very, very closely. The difference between me and somebody else who got charged with assault was they got caught and I didn't. I was still playing a lot of rugby. I was still in a very heavy mindset. And so professionally, I was, top recruiter of the year. I was doing Rangers in Action demonstrations for the high schools, just a lot of that stuff. But I was miserable.
Wasn't a good mix for you.
Was not a good
Now, were
mix.
you a believer then?
I think, and I say this almost humorously, I've always had the insurance policy belief.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey man, I don't, if the balloon goes up,
but
man,
not all in.
No.
Jesus Christ was not the Lord of your life.
No. God was this vision. So I came back from Honduras and I saw some things down there that just didn't sit good with my heart. There's some darkness down there. And so when I came home, at that time, I was an Episcopalian. That's how my family was. And so I went to my priest, and my priest was like, I don't know, he was like 6'5". I mean, he was just, and he had just this huge beard, and he was very ominous, very, don't make Father Corbett upset. And I went to him, and he was really good friends with my parents. At this time, my mom married an amazing man, amazing. He, in the short years that I lived there before I joined the Army, he showed me what right looked like. Just an amazing man. When I first met him, his name is Paul Gundelfinger. And I just, hey, sir, that's a real long name. Can I just call you Mr. G? He said, sure, you can call him Mr. G. And obviously in high school, you're going to do some stuff. I never drank. I was never that guy. But I got in a little bit of trouble with staying out late, and I had a very on and off relationship with my girlfriend, and he would correct me, but the way he corrected was always for the betterment. It was never brutal. It was always, hey. So much to this day, I live my life as we all should. I never want to disappoint the Father. Now, the Father either being God, obviously, through Jesus Christ, but I never wanted to do anything to tarnish his name, even though I didn't take his name, but I was of his household.
Yeah, you really honored him.
Oh, absolutely. I still do to this day. He was an amazing man.
So I had a question.
Sure.
So you came back from Honduras, and
oh yeah,
and you were thinking about SF. God kind of closed the door, but there was also, there was a lady in the picture then.
Yeah.
And
so coming full circle, as I went to my priest and I said, hey, I got some troubled things in my heart. I couldn't really put my finger on it. There was no acronym PTSD.
Yeah.
There was no acronym.
So it's like stuff you did or saw in Honduras.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I went to him and I said, hey, I'm having some trouble with this. And he goes, well, are you going to church every day or every week? And I said, well, not really. I mean, I have my Bible but I'm not practicing. He goes, well, what I have to say is not going to make a difference anyways. And so I kind of took that extremely wrong. I mean, I'm pretty sure that his words and his intentions were, hey, you need to have a relationship, but it wasn't that. It just really struck me wrong. And so I'm not going to say I rebelled against God, because I never spoke out against him, but I think I was mad. I went to the one person who I thought was my connection.
Answers,
yeah. Well, he was my my switchboard operator who was going to get me to God. I really turned really bad. It was my girlfriend and I had moved away from all that, and so it was very not a very godly approach to relationships, not a very godly approach to anything that I was doing. It was, hey, I'm doing great in the Army, and going to all these schools and getting this great education, military education, not education in life. And it started kind of stacking up, and I couldn't put my finger on it. So I just go to another school, or I'd volunteer for another mission.
So PTSD stuff kind of stacked up, or just the anger with God, or all of it?
All the above. And I really don't think it was PTSD as the classic understanding of it now.
But things you hadn't dealt with. Yeah.
I think it was troubling. And remember that PTSD or PTS or PTSD or CPSD, it's all cumulative.
Yeah.
So the stuff that happened in childhood, the trauma there, now travels with me to
never dealt with it.
Never dealt with it. Didn't know how to, just understood that was something that was just horrible. But I'm going to go seek my validation through what I can get through other people saying it. And I was getting it from schools. I was getting it through awards. I was getting it through accolades from leading people, those kind of things. That's where I was getting my validation. None of it is which will stay. It's all temporary. Because if you don't have the Father's validation, it's very difficult for it to be meaningful, to be honest with you. And so when all of that kind of culminated at that young part of my career, and then being out, in an environment that was paperwork, that was talking to people every day, managing time, managing, when you would put your main effort into somebody to really talk them into something that they wouldn't normally choose on their own. That really weared on me. And now I had one person come back saying that I wasn't truthful with them. And when that recruit came back and said, well, you never told me I had to shoot a gun.
You didn't know that?
I'd just say the job description, but also at that time you had to show them that we had these big discs. It was beginning of the CDs, but it was this big, and it would show them you will qualify with your weapon. But it was so much that it was a female soldier. She brought her boyfriend in, and I put him in the Army. So I guess it wasn't that much of a traumatic event.
Recruiting also is. I mean, there's real quotas. There's lots of hours. It's on the road a lot. It's what at a recruiting station, maybe you and one other enlisted guy, and
yeah, there was 3 of us in this.
But it's a different kind of Army than being in the unit. And,
yeah. My saving grace to all this is I met another lifetime buddy of mine who he was from the 82nd. He was a Grenada Raider, a Grenada guy, and another Ranger. And we would meet up at these conventions or these meetings that we have. And we spoke a totally different language, and a majority of all the people that were out there, and again, recruiters are necessary. No, but you can go from hero to zero in one day. At the end of the month, you've made your mission, and the next month, okay, what are you doing for the Army today?
Yeah.
But we would meet, and I think this is where my desire to help others with emotional issues really started kind of stemming from this, and it was his name is Freddie. I'll just say Freddie D. And Freddie called me up one day. He said, brother, I need a rendezvous. And I'm like, all right, where are we going to meet? And we met in between Lancaster, California and Victorville, California. There's a park out there called Rattlesnake State Park. And there is nothing there. It's like, here's a sign saying this is a natural, and we showed up, and and you're not supposed to bring firearms but this was a different time in California. Yeah. But we got 2 45s, 2 cans of beans, some, I think we both had, I don't know, 6-pack of beer, whatever it was, not glorifying that at any means, and a pack of Red Man chewing tobacco. And we put
sounds like a good time to me, man.
It was good. We pulled out in the middle of the desert. I mean, you could see for miles. Yeah. It was just everywhere. And sat there underneath the stars and propped up. And I was having some problems out there. And he goes, man, you need to get a motorcycle. I said, I don't want no motorcycle. What is this? And you talk about like a YZ80 or no,
a big old Harley.
Yeah, right. And I said, well, you know what? My dad has had a Harley. He said he's been waiting to give it to me all my life. And I was, 25, whatever. And so I called him up one day and I said, Dad, I think I want that bike.
Really?
Yeah.
Just like that?
Just like that.
So this guy was in the Army, Freddie. Freddie was in the Army. Y'all met.
Yeah.
It was a counseling session with each other. A couple men bonding.
Yeah.
You're coming out of recruiting.
Yeah. No, still in recruiting, but just
miserable. Didn't like it.
Miserable. I would much rather go down and fight somebody bare knuckle.
So he convinces you to get a Harley.
He said, man, that's what you need. I said, I don't need it. So anyways, we drive, he drives me over to my dad's house, which is in Roseman at the time. And he goes, I've been waiting for this all my life. And I'm kind of, I'm kind of happy because it's now I have something to connect with my dad.
Yeah.
With, right. And so he goes into this barn, this chicken coop, and there's this tarp that's laid over the top of it. and there's about, I don't know, this much of chicken manure on top of this tarp. And I'm looking, I said, I don't see no motorcycle. And I don't even know if it's a Harley. I just say it's a motorcycle. He's
Yeah.
for me, And my buddy goes, and he starts rolling it back,
Yeah.
and he can see the back of it. And he goes, oh, that's a Harley. And so we peeled it back and pulled the tarp off. And here it is. We call it the Menace Society because it's a California 1/8 raked out chopper that's tank shift with a bobtail back fender.
So this thing is sweet.
Oh, it's yeah. So we're backing it out, and I'm pushing it, and while I'm pushing it back to where the battery charger and all that, he's telling me the rules. Don't ever leave it on the side of the roads.
Your dad's telling you.
Yeah, he's telling me this is what it is, man. This is it. And he actually got it from a morgue. The guy who wrote it before him, unfortunately met his demise, and it met his end, and he bought it for some crazy, low amount. And he had spent all of his life making this, tweaking it. The motor was built by a very famous in California engine builder, and amazing motor, all those things. And he showed me how to tighten up the chain. He showed me how to change the oil. He showed me how to charge battery, and showed me the combination. So every bike has a little bit of a trick to the combination that's starting it, and it started right up.
Hadn't driven it in years though, right?
Yeah, it had been in there for 5 to 8 years.
Okay.
Nothing, and it started right up. And so I rode dirt bikes when I was a kid, but not much. And so, and when it's raked out, it's hard to get it up.
Oh yeah.
And so I had an old OG green jacket, and at that time there's no helmet law, and so I just put my Ray-Bans on and rode up the street, and it was it's hard packed sand road. So I turn it around, and it's really hard, just really difficult. And my buddy got on his bike, says, all right, we're going. And we took off. And
into the sunset.
Into the sunset, across the 136. And 136, the road is in the summertime. As you're driving, you can see the mirage coming off. I mean, it's hot. It's hot. And there's one part 136, there's these dips in the road. And they go down and they come back. And when I was a kid driving it, my mom, we'd go the wee road is what it was called to me, because yeah. And we were going, and he had a 78 shovel, and we just took off. And again, you're talking somebody who doesn't understand all this, and I'm having to tank shift. So you push down on the clutch on the motorcycle, and I'm shifting gears, and we're going. And my dad had always said, you can power shift. And so you get it up into the power band, and so much that you can just hit it and it would slip right into gear. And we were going across that desert just to my house in Victorville. And so I started riding that and going around. Well, fast forward, he said, I need that rendezvous. So we get out in the middle of Rattlesnake Ranch, and he goes, Bud, my brother, who was his rock,
This is Freddie's brother.
Freddie's brother. And he said, my brother committed suicide. And I just oh, wow. It wasn't my first introduction to the understanding of it, but it was how it affected him. And I've always said that suicide never takes away the pain. It just transfers it over to the innocent. It never really goes away. So picking to choose that, I understand it, and you'll hear it in my story, but you're and I watched his emotion. I watched him change from who he was into this new version, and it was none of his doing that did it. And so we sat out there, and I just let him talk, and we're eating cans of beans, and we would have a beverage, and we were chewing tobacco and spitting, and we'd throw the cans out there, and we'd shoot the cans and reload and talk smack to one another. And he says, you know what? The most the most hurtful thing is that we had been planning 5 years now or some amount of time, to go to Sturgis. And I said, man, I'm not your blood brother, but I'll ride with you. And he goes, you're going to ride the Minister Society all over there? I said, no, I'll build a bike. And he goes, have you ever built a bike before? I said, no, but that doesn't stop me from doing it.
Nobody tells me what I can and can't do.
That's right.
You know?
And so I went down and I went to a place there in Victorville. It's closed down now, but these two brothers would travel through Central America. And they would find old motorcycles down in Central America, and they would put them in connexes and ship them back. And so I got a 1956 police special, and it was all in boxes. A rolling frame, so a frame with 2 tires, but that's it. And I went down and bought it, and there was nothing put together, nothing, whatever. And I had the motor done because I just didn't understand the motor that well, but I had the frame powder coated and all that, and then started putting parts on it, and I would drive down to this bike shop, and I think they had a 48 in there, and I would trace the wire, and I'd drive back to my house and do it. And the guy says, look, here's a better way of doing it. Here's your manual, and they were really just old bikers who were intrigued by this young, greenhorn trying to do this. And 3 months to the day, I kicked it over and started it, and it started right up. And I rode it down and put it on the kicks and the Jiffy kickstand in front of the shop, and went inside, and they came out and they said, dude, man, you did a great job on this. And I was really, it was like, okay, I'm being accepted into, you're just a greenhorn. Well, now that you built a bike, and 3 months to the day, and then like 2 weeks later, we took off.
You and Freddie went to Sturgis.
Me and Freddie went to Sturgis, and we started in Mojave, California. And the first day we're riding, and it's hot, and we're riding, and we're going to stop in like Needles or something like that to the KOA campground. And so we're driving, and we get there, and we can't find it. And Freddie goes, let's just sleep out in the field. I'm like, all right, I'm good with that. So we kind of go out in the middle of this field, and we kind of see this open area that's just cleared. And so we just park there. So we park up, and it's just kind of a sandy spot. And I take out a brick of wood and put it down and set my bike there, and take out a horse blanket. And I had a poncho liner, and we're laying down, and the first day, and it's like, man, wouldn't that be weird if this is like the Micmac burial ground? And we're laughing. I said, shut up, Freddie. And we're laughing. About 3:00 in the morning, the earth starts to shake. Just, I'm like, oh my God, what is that? What is that? We had parked about, from me to about 8 feet out, there was railroad tracks, and this train goes by us.
So you're parked like right beside a railroad
right, and
track.
we didn't even notice. It was so dark out there. There's no ambient light. And so the bikes are shaking, and poncho liner is getting ready to try to leave, and we're holding it down, and it's probably 20 or 30 cars. And we're laughing. Oh man, it's just funny. And so we get up in the morning, and it's like, wow, that was refreshing.
Yeah.
Not. And immediately he goes, man, what's wrong with your face? I said, what's wrong with your face? And he goes, no, really, what's wrong with your face? And I look in the mirror, and I got these red blotches all over me. And I'm like, what the heck? We were sleeping in an ant bed.
Yeah, they got you.
And they got us all through. We were so tired that it got us through the night. So we're out there, we're shucking clothes and getting ants off there, and people on highway, honking at us, and too funny. Well, the rest of the story is every part of this journey was a new piece of the puzzle of being part of a community that accepted us. And we got to Sturgis, and there's a whole bunch. I could write a book just on this journey, but it was a journey of healing. It truly was a journey for him,
for Freddie, especially.
For Freddie, and I would say even for me, because my one connection with my father and validation
Yeah.
was the motorcycle. And so we get to Sturgis, we have a great time. I mean, we sleep out in this big campground, and people, hey, you hungry, you want something to eat, and we'd go over and eat with them.
There's a
And
sense of community in the
absolutely,
motorcycle group. Yeah.
absolutely,
And they
absolutely.
love vets too.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
You know?
yeah. And so all of that was this as we were coming home. I mean, it was like, hey, we gotta leave and take off. Now, my 56 pan was a 6-volt system. You don't just buy parts on the side of the road. I mean, you can pretty much, for all the 50s stuff, you can buy things out of a auto parts store. Well, my headlight goes out, and this is like in Utah, and we're going back out of the Badlands back into Utah and around. We're going to go to Vegas because we have our girlfriends. They're going to meet us in Vegas, and then we're going to ride home from there, which is a whole nother story. But my headlight went out, and so if you've ever driven through Utah, there's no street lights. You're lucky
Yeah,
you
it's
have
dark.
It is dark. And I remember I had this spur, and I put the spur on my right boot or my left boot. Yeah. And because they didn't have the white line marked over here very well, because we're going kind of through a valley and so his headlight was providing me a little bit of light, and I stood just a little bit behind him. But I put this spur out, and they had the little nodules on the road, the reflectors, it would hit ting ting ting. As long as I heard that, I was lined up okay. And we were going 70, 75 miles an hour on these old motorcycles. Ding, 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 ding. And the rhythm of it all kind of just put me into what I would consider a state of understanding. You know, we all need to be guided by a light, even in the darkness that we have. And there will always be given things that will guide us in the right direction. And I remember coming down the hill into Las Vegas and running out of gas. I mean, I run it all.
No light, no gas.
No gas. And I put it in neutral, and I could just you could hear the turning of the chain and sliding into, there's an Exxon station that we kind of pulled into and filled up. And it was just the realization that we're going to go through life. There's going to be times of darkness, and looking back at it respectively is that we all are going to face those times. How do you face it? Do you face it with joy? You know, like Paul writes, you know, and Freddie and I have remained very close. We had some very tough years after that, not following God the best way that we both could have. And later on, we came full circle, and he is on fire for the Lord. And
So you're friends to this day?
Yeah, we're still friends to this day. In fact, I had gone back several years ago. And I can't remember if it was for my stepfather's funeral, but we had visited, and he goes, "Man, I'm struggling." And I said, "Well, we're not far from Rattlesnake."
No, you did it again.
Well, we didn't. We actually had it right there.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any of the other stuff the other crutches, I would say we had. And I introduced him, back to God. And I said, the only reason that I can say is unsurmountable love is that God has brought me to where I am. And he goes, "I want to hear more about that." So in our, or at least in my life, I've seen bits and pieces along the way that God was always kind of staring at me. All right, you're a little bit too far out of bounds. Crack, let's come back here. I'm going to let you, walk this way. And so we kind of got to a place where I could start seeing the fruit of God's labor in my life. And so kind of go back on, how I came to God. And it's that that meeting with that officer kind of thing.
Well, let's take a quick break, and then
Sure.
we'll come back. We'll talk about that meeting with the first officer and
Oh,
how
yeah,
he came
yeah,
to the Lord. So.
yeah. Good. I look forward to it.
Hey, we just wanted to thank everybody for viewing the content. If you like anything we're putting out, please subscribe, like, share it, and just thank you for your prayers and support. I wanted just to tell all the guests that the For the Kingdom podcast has two main goals. And goal number one is to glorify the name of Jesus Christ. When Christ was on the cross, he prayed to the Father that his name would be glorified. And goal number two is that his kingdom will expand here on earth like it's in heaven. The Lord taught us how to do that when he taught us the Lord's Prayer. If you have any prayer requests at all, please send them. Please send them to us. Be specific. Give us your name. Tell us what you want to pray about. We're going to put a board back here in the studio, and we're going to commit to praying for you as you commit to praying for us. And finally, we just want to remind everybody that Jesus Christ alone solves humanity's biggest problems. And it's our rebellion against God, and it's the problem with death. So when we commit ourselves to Christ, he gives us a new heart, he pays the penalty for sin, and he promises us eternity in heaven. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate the prayers and support. Please like and subscribe. God bless. All right, so welcome back from the break. Chris was telling us about his motorcycle and his friend Freddie, and so now we're going to kind of get into how this led you to Christ eventually and what that looked like.
So we'll kind of fast forward into that old motorcycle took me down to North Georgia one weekend, and I was kind of disheartened. I was unfortunately in a really not a very good marriage, and it was ending, and I hated. Nobody ever says their wedding vows until we divorce. It's always death to us part. But kind of did everything kind of backwards. Met an amazing lady out of North Georgia, and we started kind of dating long distance. She had that attitude. She was actually pretty mean to me the very first time we met at a buddy's bar, which is never a good place. But I walked in. It was like walking into Cheers. Everybody's like, "Hey," And I walked up and I said, "Hey, let's buy a round of, for everybody." And there's only probably 4 people at this establishment, or 4 or 5 people at the bar, and she immediately says, I'll buy my own drinks. It's I don't need you, whatever. And I was like, fine, it's cheaper on me. And I walked away. Well, my buddy behind the bar, good guy, said, "Hey, man, what are you doing? That's my friend." She goes, "So?" She goes, "Don't be so hard on the CSM."
Yeah.
And she turns and says, "I don't care if he's a customer service manager." So she thought I was a customer service manager.
So we just for the audience, we'd fast forward probably 10 years or
yeah.
So you had gotten married, I guess divorced, and several deployments. So you were in your motorcycle days. You were a senior staff sergeant.
Yep.
And now you're a command sergeant major.
Yeah, now I'm a command sergeant major, and in between there was a lot of obviously deployments and this and that, 96 Olympics, a whole bunch of other things. But I think it's more important. That's kind of just filler in the life, and each of those experiences has led me to where to
this moment.
I think the most important part of the kind of military career or whatever. And so we started dating, and again, not anywhere following the Lord, nothing. In fact, I was kind of mad at this time, just upset at all, and my wife and I actually, or my ex-wife, weren't even divorced yet, and just not living very, very biblical at all. And met the love of my life, and it's amazing how you will see the doors shutting, and right, wrong, or indifferent. I think it set me on a path of where I was kind of going to. And so we started dating, and again, we'll be the first ones in our testimony to say that we did it all wrong biblically, but I mean, all wrong. We our middle son, she had already had our son Gavin, and he was 5, I think, or a little bit younger, and we got pregnant with Gabriel, and I was deploying, and it was a very, very tough time overseas. It was Iraq, and it was still very volatile, and things were, it was okay corral, and so deployed, and kind of I was with one unit, and then halfway through I was now shifted to another unit, and so my time kind of started over. And so our first deployment was 15 months gone, so Gabriel was born, and I was gone, and I came home, and he was 4 months or 5 months old, and then I was gone again until he was 1, and so really, really a difficult time. And I was really starting to get pretty beat up spiritually. We were seeing some things, some true darkness, getting shot at, quite often. And that will always kind of change things, your perspective. And came home, spent a little bit of time, and then was right back out the door. And again, on another 15 months. And at this point, I was really living a very dark life, very distant. And remember, I really was not being the father that my son Gavin needed. I was learning kind of to be a father to Gabriel, but he was so young that he really didn't see the outburst and the anger and those kind of things. And basically, I was just kind of the angry dude at the end of the couch, and everybody kind of piled up over there. And I remember distinctly that that lieutenant, or that captain, that young captain, I was sitting out in front of the battalion headquarters, and I'm living a poser's life, almost just a facade of, yeah, here I am, canteen cup in hand, drinking coffee, fussing at people back and forth. And I watched in the distance this, what appeared to be a very lost, malingering service member walking across the grass, which I'm now starting to get off my grass. Who the heck, you think you are? And the backstory is that my unit came home, and very storied unit, but started having suicides.
Yeah.
One after the other, after the other, after the other. And all I could hear was the enemy in my ear saying, you think you're a good leader and you can't even keep your soldiers from taking their lives? Who are you? And I started going deeper into this dark kind of existence. And this captain comes walking across the ground. Get over here. Who do you think you are? What are you doing? And as he got closer, I kind of noticed that his headgear was tilted a little bit this way. His cross was cattywampus on this side, and he had his hands in his pockets. And hey, dude,
the chaplain.
He was the chaplain. Hey, dude, come here, you. What are you doing? And I didn't call him chaplain. I call him Padre.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Padre? I saw it in a John Wayne movie one time, and I thought it was kind of cool. Come here. What are you doing? Oh, I'm new to the unit. I said, well, all right, well, come here. Let me get you straight. So we had all these suicides, and I brought him in my office. I said, all right. And I'm talking to him as I was fixing his cross, and I took his headgear off and I set it on the couch. Now, this is where the Holy Spirit starts to kind of reveal himself. And I get them all straightened up, and I said, hey, look, man, it's not about what makes a good chaplain. He's asked me that. I said, it's not making sure that the hymnals are stacked right inside the chapel. You need to be up. Your boots need to be dirty. Your boots need to be dirty. You need to be up with the unit. You need to be in a place. Make yourself accessible. Don't hide in the chapel. Get out and get with the soldiers. If you feel uncomfortable, I'll assign a guy there that can help you out. And so he left, and then he came back a couple of days. Oh, I told him, I said, hey, look, I need for you to find a program that we can help our soldiers not to take their lives. And he goes right to that, and he leaves. He comes back about, I don't know, a week later, let's say. And he's like, I think I found a program. I said, all right. He goes, yeah, it's for, it's to help soldiers. I think that it'll work out really good. I said, I don't care what it is. Let's get it started. And he felt a tinge to say, because I said, I need guys to stop committing suicide. And I teared up. And he said, well, have you ever considered going to it? And I said, what? Get out of here. Don't let that door hit you where the good God split you. Get on out of here. And he stood up, and, he's like, because I may not have been that nice of language that I just said, but he high diddle pretty quick. He got out and shut the door. When he shut that door, I broke. I could not stop the waterworks. I started weeping. I started like I was just on my knees. I couldn't stop. Bubbles. Because somebody had pierced my veil. He had seen behind the facade. He looked through my eyes. My soul, the Holy Spirit just showed up and said, okay, it's time. And I could not stop weeping. And I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. Unexplainable. Well, the Holy Spirit sat down in the chair, and the chaplain walked out of my office, walked down the hallway, and went out the front door. Guess what he forgot?
What does he forget? His hat?
He forgot his headgear.
Yeah.
And so he was just in the office. So he opened up the door.
And sees you.
And sees me, the mess of a man, and quietly shows me the grace and shuts the door and sits down. Me, armoring back up, putting on the facade, took my wet PT socks, wiped my face, blew my nose, and said, what in the is wrong with you? Don't you know to knock? And again, he says, Sergeant Major, I think you need to go to this program. I said, get out of here. Not another word out of your mouth. Get out of here. And he shut the door behind. I wiped it. Well, very crafty he is. He does a button hook into the commander's office. And the commander's an amazing, amazing commander. He gives me about 10 minutes. And he goes in and says, hey, your Sergeant Major, he's on the razor's edge. And there had been a lot of stuff going on at home. There was a lot of stuff that would have destroyed most marriages, because we both tried to stop it because we were bringing baggage in from other places. And so I got my composure back, opened up my door, sat down, was doing some paperwork, and the commander comes in. Say, hey, can I get some coffee? And I'm, yep, yes, sir. There's the coffee cup. I always had a coffee pot. Strange that is, right? Sergeant Major with a coffee
And you never washed it, right?
No, are you kidding? That's the essence.
Yeah, you don't wash those
No,
cups.
it's properly seasoned. My cup was never washed. In fact, I think one of the very first arguments my wife and I ever had was her washing one of my cups. What are you doing?
Yeah,
I mean,
you
there
probably
was
still haven't forgotten that.
no. In fact, she didn't clean it all the way out because I kind of stopped her. And so the commander comes in and says, "Hey, the chaplain says that he found a program that is going to. He thinks it's a good fit for soldiers to go and help them get relief from PTSD, whatever." And I said, "That's great." He goes, he said something, but I need somebody to go assess it. I said, "Well, that HHC first sergeant, man, he is all tore up from the floor up. He's got 2 more deployments. He's got all the problem about," and he just laughed and I gave him this long litany of reasons.
Yeah, he already knew he wanted to go there.
I am not going to. I don't want any touchy feely, none of this stuff. No kumbaya. And he sat there and drank his coffee, and he said, "Well, I think I remember hearing or seeing or reading something about all enlisted matters will be advised by the senior non-commissioned officer of that unit." And I said, "All right, sir, you got me at my technicality. I'll go." So I was in Colorado, and for a week, and the program is amazing. Amazing program. It was just kind of starting out, and it took me through my life.
What's the name of the program?
So Operation ORW, Operation Restored Warrior.
Restored Warrior.
Yeah, and still an amazing program. In fact, so much that in the middle of that, on the side of the mountain in Colorado, I gave my heart back to God. He always had it, but I physically and was relieved of so much. I walked away with a new appreciation for a relationship with God. And, it was always that warrior in me was like, oh, I'm not going to follow somebody who is, weak, turn the other cheek, blah, 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 all these things, because I didn't understand the context of the Bible and the Word. And they showed me that he was less like Mr. Rogers and more like William Wallace. And here's why. Boom, boom, boom. And they showed us categorically that, what an amazing strength he had, to be crucified for us when he had 170 legions of angels standing up there going, "Send me, I'm ready."
Yeah, he willingly did it.
He willingly did it. He wasn't pressed into it. No, I think, who was the one that wrote the book on killing Kennedy and killing Jesus? Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Nobody killed Jesus.
No, he willingly gave his life.
He willingly gave his life, period. Now, that is strength. That is the warrior that we need to follow, period. And on the side of the mountain, I gave my life back to the Lord, and made some pretty great proclamations. And some of it was, I called my wife coming off the mountain, because there was no radio reception or telephone reception up there, and I was coming down, and we're on the other side of the Eisenhower Pass, and I call her and I'm like, hey, sweetheart, how are you? And she goes, hello. And I said, yeah, hey, just got off the mountain, and
just got off the mountain,
and I wanted to call and tell you I love you, and I'll be home, at 5 o'clock, whatever, and I can't wait. I can't wait to hold you. And hung up the phone, and she immediately called her friend, and she goes, I don't know what kind of
something
Kool-Aid
happened there.
I don't know what kind of Kool-Aid they've been serving him, but if he comes down here and does a crisscross applesauce in the middle of our front room and starts singing Kumbaya, I'm leaving. I'm getting the kids and I'm getting out of here, kind of thing. And came home and immediately started to apply what God had put on my heart there, and started kind of changing things.
What kind of things did?
That validation comes from the Father.
Yeah.
That was one. The other one was that it's easy to forgive others who have done things against you, but how difficult it is to forgive yourself. And I think that's one of the greatest things that we can do is have that forgiveness for ourselves and our sin. And
some people can never do that.
oh, absolutely.
They
And when I find people that do that, and I'm talking to them, well, I can never forgive myself. That's mine to carry. And I said, okay, well, let me ask you a question. How many lashes did Jesus take? He took 39, right? Because 40 is considered a death sentence because of all of the trauma that causes. Just the ripping the skin, the capillaries, and the bleeding. But 40 is normally death. He said, but he took 39 for you. How many more does he have to take for you to know that you're forgiven? And it's an open question, not rhetorical, but if you want to give an answer, please do. And normally it's like, no, I just can't. I said, that is the love of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He was willing to take that, so he didn't. And there's no more sacrifices. He took it all. So is your forgiveness less than what God is? Come on, let's talk. Man, I'll take them kind of down a road of the thought process of allowing that to happen, because we've been listening to the voice of the enemy for so many years, and that's part of the process that we have to get away from the lie and come back to the truth. So when I came down off the mountain and started to make these incrementally changes in my thought processes, my understanding, my love for God, and knowing that I have a healing that surpasses all understanding. It wasn't that you could say, well, on this part of section A, subparagraph B, that I found the Lord. It wasn't that. It was a complete washing of what I thought and what God presented was the difference. And so it surpassed all understanding. And I walk in that love and joy every single day. And from that, go ahead.
Did your unit adopt the program?
Well, yes,
they did.
We did. We sent some more.
Okay.
We sent some more people there, and the guys who went through with us. There was a sniper there. There was and here's one of the greatest examples of God's power. So Fort Campbell at the time was just suffering from a lot of suicide around the units, correct? The installation chaplain went with me, got freedom from some demonic presence, basically, got freed from it, and went to every gate of the installation and prayed over it, and prayed on the streets, and prayed over the barracks. I mean, he made the conscious effort to do that, and we did not have another suicide for a long period of time. We spend a majority of our time reading about the miracles in the Bible, but we never consider ourselves as miracles. Look at that. How many times do we drive in traffic, or we drive and do things that are dangerous, and we come home unscathed? Could that not be a miracle in our own lives? But we're looking for this big, show, whatever. And I've been presented with some things and some thoughts that have led me to that we're living a miracle every single day, period. Fast forward and go, and I deploy again. And this is probably one of the times that I just situationally started to use what I had learned. And so I left not very long after I'd gone to the program, just, man, this is great. I've got a second, lease on life, all these things. And we travel back. We go to Afghanistan this time, and We are in country just, I think, about 2 weeks. And we get this call, the commander and I get this call about a catastrophic. I had nothing to compare it with when somebody said catastrophic. It was a vehicle that got hit with a deep bury. And I remember driving up to it and looking at the strangeness, and that's not really the right word, but the peculiarity of the situation, because people are like walking around with like no vision. Now they could see me, those things, but it was like they were just 1,000-mile stare of the carnage of it all. And the deep bury, it took 5 lives that fast, and it was June 7th. And it was a First Sergeant Barton, and a mortar crew, and all of them have a story and a family, and I won't get into the very just emotional portion of it, because it was, hop out of the vehicle. I'm hopping out of my vehicle and I've got to do something. So immediately it's like, hey, do this, do that, do this, do that, get over here. And I remember from where the vehicle was and where it ended up in the Cunard River. It was just on the edge of it, and walking down there, and the commander had like a 120 rope tied to him, and he was diving, trying to look for remains. And I came up and I said, earlier when we left, I said, everybody comes home. I stood on the PT stand. Everybody comes home, either in the aircraft or underneath the aircraft. Nobody's left behind. And we couldn't find one, and it was really difficult and tough. And I remember just going back to my room that night, and just that dark voice saying, I thought you were bringing everybody home. I thought you said that nobody was going to be left behind. And it just kept playing. And I really lamented over that. And I didn't question, but I questioned. I thought I was past all of this, with this great healing. And it was truly the very first horrible test that I was going to have to this renewal of my faith. And I remember several days later of just getting on my hands and knees inside my CHU, the containerized unit, and just weeping. Just, Lord, take this from me. I'm giving it all to you. I can't carry this. I'm not strong enough to carry this. And about that time, there was a knock on my door. And I gathered myself, and it's like, yeah, what do you need? Hey, Sergeant Major, you need to come to the talk, the Tactical Operations Center. You need to come quick. And so I kind of got myself together and ran over to the talk, grabbed my weapon, and went over to the talk. I remember going inside and watching an aerial platform with a visual on some lead swimmers swimming across the Cunard River into like a small little island. And there we could see the remains of our soldier that we couldn't find. And they retrieved him. And the ironic portion of this, which is only God, was that an Afghan farmer found him. And he and his son walked some distance to find an American patrol, because they could see that he was Anglo and it wasn't right for him to stay there. And they found an American patrol. The American patrol got it. We brought him up, and we brought the remains back, and they were in the aid station. And I just, everyone go away. And I prayed. I prayed over him and stayed there. And in that prayer, I just felt uncandidly. Again, here we go with the just a miracle. Was I wept because of the loss, but I also wept because of an answered prayer. And I unmistakably felt an arm around my shoulder as I was weeping over the the body bag that he was in. So felt so comforted in that loss, not because of the loss, but comforted that my Savior was with me. There was no doubt in my mind whatsoever. I felt that pressure that only an arm around you can have. And as I felt it kind of like not leave, but kind of let up, I could hear the helicopter coming in and landing. And we carried this soldier, this hero, out to the aircraft. And they shut it all down, and we put him on the aircraft and was taken home. And, you know, those hero flights, there's a very emotional portion of that, but there's also an honorable portion of that. And I think that's what we all kind of should feel in the reverence of those who are willing to do everything, every ounce, measure of dedication to one another, as similar to what our Lord and Savior did for us. And so at that point, I was only strengthened, but that began the bloodiest month for our unit since like Tet of 68. We had every week we were losing a soldier, and it was very, very tough on the unit. And I know that through that, it was a solidification of not harboring that hate. You know, it'd be easy. It's easy to hate somebody who takes another person's life, but it is the understanding that I give it all to God because I don't want to be eaten up by the hate. So much that when we came home, it was a very tough time. And in fact, on Thanksgiving of that day, the 25th of November, 2010, again, my dates, we got highlighted, my vehicle got highlighted, and we took an RPG right in my door, right behind my seat. And I remember the lights went on, and I went to close my fire in eye, you know, like and I remember looking, and I watched the guy. I could see his face when he shot the RPG. That's how close he was. And I watched just the plume of orange behind it, I kind of cringed, saying, "This is going to hurt." And
it like slowed down.
Time slowed down. Everything slowed down really, really slow. And I said, you know, this is going to hurt. And strangely enough, the chaplain was actually supposed to be sitting right behind me. And at the last minute, this was on Thanksgiving Day, we were going around feeding the fobs. And the commander wanted to talk to him on the way back. And the RPG went right through where he would have been sitting. And
what kind of vehicle were you in?
We were in a
MRAP.
MRAP, yeah, we were in an MRAP, and those things, beauty, because it took that round and it hit just right where it penetrated the vehicle. It detonated, penetrated. We should have all been dead, but there was like this feeling of it's gonna hurt, but it's gonna be okay. And it set off. We had secondary sympathetic detonation of some munitions that were inside, which would have done. My gunner, who strangely enough who had been in Bible college. And so we called him the machine gun preacher. Not to take away from the actual machine gun preacher, but my other guy in the vehicle was his name was Drumoff. You ever seen Despicable Me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just like Drew. Oh, Sergeant Major, it's so good to be here with you today, shooting and blowing things up. It's really great. Right? Good, just a great human being. And then we had one of the other dismount Wiseman who really took the brunt of it all. And during our safety briefs, I was always saying, hey, look, if anything happens, you're incapacitated, I'll get back there. And they all laughed. Hey, big old guy, you ain't getting back here. And I remember after the explosion and the fire suppression went off, and driver Hudson, he kind of was out a little bit. I mean, he good, great, solid dude. And my gunner, I asked for a report, and the gunner says, hey, I've got shrapnel on my back and my buttocks and my legs. I can't stand. And Dromoff comes over the net. He goes, I only have 2 leaks. I'll get up and shoot people. I'll get up and shoot. So he gets up in the gunners, but I get by him, and it's really hard to imagine, but just the floor was just filled. Everybody's blood just was everywhere, and Wiseman was bleeding pretty bad. And I got back there, but the ringing and the TBI and all that, I couldn't really move. I had my scissors in my hand. I knew that I had to cut the pants, and I was trying to put the tourniquet on his leg, and things just weren't working. And I wasn't doing so well. And all of a sudden the back ramp started going down, and it's the commander and medic that worked on me in Iraq. And his first thing was, hey, Sergeant, we got to stop meeting like this, And I was very flippant and said, well, you just like cutting my pants off, and and then I was out. Wiseman came true, and I was trying to put that tourniquet on him, and he said, I never thought you'd get back here. And his face was as wide as that wall right there. And I was like, man, he's bleeding out. And I started really getting kind of worried about him and trying to get it all on there. And the medic took over, and I was out. And that next thing I know, I'm actually the chaplain is calling my wife. And so I've got oxygen on. I don't got nothing on. They've cut everything off, and I'm sitting there, and she's like, hello, Debbie. And I'm like, and it registered, and I start getting mad at him, and I'm trying to, yell at him through my oxygen mask and all of this. And he's like, he calls, and her version of he calls and says, hey, Debbie, how are you? And she's like, hey, chaplain, how are you? And she's like, hey, Chris has had an accident. And she's like, oh God, or Chris is wounded. And I'm saying, and I'm yelling at him, don't do that to her, those kind of things. And he goes, well, what do you want me to say? And I said, tell her that I dropped my crayons and I bumped my head and I'm going to be okay, kind of thing.
Probably wouldn't be buying it though.
No. It was not a very good Thanksgiving. It was a very good Thanksgiving, but it was a somber one. And so, after that, it was kind of like, okay, I just need to slow down. And, but
did all the guys survive?
Everyone survived. And Wiseman, it didn't look like they were going to be able to save his foot, and it was really pretty bad. And we both got medevaced at the same time. And, again, it's easy you could write another whole book on just the medevac, because it was pretty harrowing, and we got over and got kind of fixed up. I had some burns and this and that and smoke inhalation. I think my oxygen level was, I don't know, 60 something. It was really,
That's low.
yeah, it was tanked. It might have been a little bit higher than that, but some burns and stuff that I was gonna be able to recover from. But it was like, hey, look, we're gonna sit you home for a little while, and so it was time for my leave anyways, and so it's kind of you're still gonna come back, but we're gonna let you go, or we want you to go. You're gonna go, and there's some other funny stories to that where I had I got out of the hospital and like I had new pants on, but they had my shirt on, and my shirt was just kind of stained, and I get my kit and we're getting ready to take off, and I have some replacements, and they don't see that I'm the sergeant major because I have my kit on, and my head is splitting. I'm ill. I'm ill as a hornet. And I get these kids in there, and this one kid, I'm sitting there and I'm sleeping. They're not going to leave me, so I'm sleeping on the tire of the helicopter. And the pilot's coming. Hey, you saw Major Fields? I said, yeah. And he said, all right, hey, we're going to get you back to your fob so you can heal up. And I said, all right, I appreciate it. Well, they didn't hear all that conversation, so they're getting ready to get him on, and I could hear this guy, this kid is just talking big. Man, I can't wait to get into it. I'm blah 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 blah. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So my little mind starts going, and I knew that once the helicopter took off that they were going to do a test fire of the machine guns and stuff like that. So before they get on, I said, all right, listen up. If those machine guns go off, that means that we're in the stuff, and we're probably gonna land and have to, so don't load your weapons until and I just watched him, and I put him in the hellhole over there. The wind was gonna beat his lips crazy. And we took off, and sure enough, they went. His eyes got about this big.
He thought he was contact.
He was, and to this day, I don't know. Probably last year, he goes, do you remember me? And I'm like, dude, there's been so many soldiers. He goes, I was the one that was in the back of the helicopter.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I know exactly who you are. And then once I came home, I really, that's when I decided that I needed to give more to God, and went and worked for ORW for about 6.5 years. We did a cycle every month.
This is the ranch in Colorado.
Yeah, it's the ranch.
You went there. So when you came home, did you get out?
I put my paperwork in. It was like, okay, I'm
yeah,
good. I'm good. That was, and I never knew it was. It was 30 years.
It's time.
Yeah, and when I went to retirement and they did my DD for 14, it's like, hey, you've been 30 years, 6 months, and 11 days, and I said, wow, I didn't even know. But go work for them, and just learned so much. Good healing prayers, and just kind of the evolution of the warrior spirits in the in everyday life. And some guys, well, I don't know what my task and purpose is. I said, well, guess what, man? You understand the evil in the kinetic fight. Can you imagine if you can match that same energy into the spiritual? So let's be spiritual warriors for the kingdom of God. And in that, you can change lives by your story, your testimony, and in that testimony, how you're able to apply it and give them the sense of belonging, and more importantly, a sense of healing from the evil of the world. And so it's just kind of been a quest of that. I went back to grad school, finished grad school, got out, and have really poured into pastoral care, where, especially in Clarksville, you have a large community within your church of warriors who need to understand this better every day. And I chuckle when I say I go and minister to places that most pastors won't go. Not that they're not willing, no, but that I go into the dark and seedy of it all. And I don't want to paint a bad picture, but I go where I'm called, and it's mostly the biker community, because it's been in my blood for so many years. God just kind of revealed to me that this is where we need you. And, I come for the one, not, leave the 99 to get to the one. And it's been working out really well. Um, and my wife, my wife working for the nonprofit has allowed me to, when they have homeless veterans that come in that need or want to talk to somebody, I make myself available, 24
Well,
hours a
you
day.
can relate,
Yeah, absolutely.
so it's,
Mhm.
I know when I got hurt in Afghanistan, they had me go try to see, this doc, and
Mm.
I think I told you this, but he didn't have a combat patch on, and I was mean as heck to this guy.
Mhm.
Just because instantly I was like, you can't relate, man. Like,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so you have to meet people where they are,
Hmm.
and so
When we were coming back and doing the reverse SRP and all
yeah,
that, you had this contracted, and there's nothing wrong with them, but a student from Vanderbilt or a student from who's, in whatever process of their education, they come down and they do the standard gratuitous checklist. Are you going to hurt yourself? No, I want to go home and be with my family. Okay. Are you going to hurt anybody else? No, I want to go home and be with my family. And that's like right when you get home, you know and then all of a sudden, a week later,
Hmm.
2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, all of that new of being home now becomes into the just the conflict that you have, reintegrating to just your family. And the issue that really hit hard with for me is that you have 30% of the unit that leaves dissipates going to their next assignments. You take your middle managers, your staff sergeant, and your sergeant first classes, and they're going to drill sergeant, recruiting, CMTC, all those other places where you gut your middle managers. And now you have the individuals who understand how to lock and clear weapons and knew where the dining facility was and the gym overseas. Now they're promoted to specialists or sergeants, don't have the institutional understanding of how do I help this person with, AER or First Cross or Red Cross, those kind of things. And with that comes the slow erosion of the professionalism of the unit that's going to be able to help those who are going through those trials and tribulations when they come back, those uncertainties, the the spiritual warfare. And that's exactly what it is. Spiritual warfare happens to the soldier when service member, when they come home. They survive the kinetic, but when the
mhm.
lights go out, now they're in a whole different place, and they're trying to mask it with alcohol or drugs or video games or driving fast or all those things, risky health behaviors. And the worst thing about it is suicide is not always left with a note. Sometimes it's just the risky health behaviors
Yeah.
that lead up to it, you know? And so, in the end, the greatest thing that we can have and show is come back to the Father, be comforted by, understand that your salvation is there, and that you have another task and purpose. And the task and purpose may be something totally different than what you were in the service. And you will now get the greatest of gratification from that if you will surrender to it.
Yeah, ultimately, our task and purpose is what to love the Lord God with our heart, mind, and soul, and
Absolutely.
love our neighbor as ourselves. And what does that mean? It means a little different for everybody, but
Mm-hmm.
there's still purpose after the military,
Mm-hmm.
and I thank the Lord that we can find freedom and renewal in Him, and
Mm-hmm.
I thank the Lord for that mountain in
Yeah,
Colorado.
man, I do too. I do too. It's a special place.
Yeah,
It truly
yeah,
is a very, very special place. And there's all kinds of small stories along the way where you can see God, when you have, I always pray, let me have the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and the heart to interpret where you're working in my life, and allow me to be your hands and feet, and allow your words to be my words, and let it not fall onto deaf ears. Because it's now the new mission, which should have always been our mission, is to just one more, for the kingdom. Yeah. Another movie I would highly recommend is The Kingdom of Heaven.
I have to watch it. I think it's been a long time.
Watch Kingdom of Heaven, watch the director's cut, and watch the redemption of a young man, a boy seeking his father's absolution, where the father then comes to him for absolution, and where he will come from a fallen state and be redeemed, and what he does with that redemption. And there's so many great lessons just in that one movie. It's an amazing movie.
Well, so Chris, this was a great episode.
Yeah.
Really, for me, just made me think a lot about how I get validation from our Heavenly Father and how we find purpose in living for Him. So thank you for coming on the show.
It's my honor.
I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
It meant a lot to me.
Yeah. That's all my pleasure.
Yeah, signing off.
Yeah.
Tell them hope isn't far away. There's new life in Jesus' name.